Sharon, give me some water, please. Honorable members, at the break, we were debating a compendium of bills. I presume we are now ready. The chair recognizes the honorable member for Marco City.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. I promise not to intrude for an inordinate amount of time. But, Madam Speaker, there was two small matters that I thought it was important to address on the record. One of those was a statement made by the Prime Minister where he continued a chorus that had begun on the other side, continued with the member for Carmichael, and now has changed dramatically with the Prime Minister. Madam Speaker, there is this story that is being told that the Free National Movement borrowed a substantial amount of funds when we came to office. And the figures, Madam Speaker, has now changed from $1 billion to now $2 billion, according to the Prime Minister. So I wanted, Madam Speaker, just to correct the record. And so I am on a point of order, member for West End and Bimini. The Prime Minister mentioned $2 billion per year. I just want to go back to your figures. Madam Speaker, I'm looking at the draft estimates of revenue and expenditure from 2022-2023. According to these draft estimates on page 4, colleagues, under the fiscal summary, one of the things you would see, Madam Speaker, is $660 million in the fiscal summary were funds that were carried over from the last year of the Progressive Liberal Party's time in governance. In 2017, 2018, the borrowing was $415 million. In 2018, 2019, $215 million. In 2019, 2020, roughly $800 million.
The chair recognizes the honorable member for Exeter in Rikers Island.
I believe this is abusive.
It's not abusive.
Madam Speaker, the member is allocated at least 1 hour to speak. If he wishes to defend the record of the former administration, he's free to do so. But to stand here and give a whole, narrative that may be counter to something that someone may or may not have said is really inappropriate. I believe he ought to wait his turn. He's on the schedule, and he has an opportunity to speak at length on the issues he's attempting to raise now, Madam Speaker.
Thank you, Honourable Member. Honourable Member, was that something that the Honourable Member... Today?
Yes, today. The Prime Minister said that we added to the debt $2 billion each year with nothing to show for it, Madam Speaker. The record clearly shows that that is patently untrue. And I'm reading... and I'm reading the document. I don't like, no. What, Madam Speaker, let me just say this calmly, Madam Speaker. The member is seeking to leave something that is inaccurate on the record of the House. I have, Madam Speaker, I have a right to correct the record if it is inaccurate. And all I'm saying, Madam Speaker, is the record is clear. No such thing happened under the Free National Movement. And I'm giving the specific figures for members of the public who heard the Prime Minister's statement that we added $2 billion each year to the debt. And in the first year, 2017-2018, the new debt was $415 million. 2018-2019, $215 million. 2019-2020, after Dorian, $799 million. And then 2020 and 2021, in the midst of COVID, $1.3 billion. So it is untrue. What the Prime Minister sought to do is he put together, Madam Speaker, the refinancing of debt and added it to new debt. So I just want to say to the public, it is untrue what was put on the record of the House. We did not borrow $2 billion each year. And it's shameful. It's shameful.
Why are you trying to out-talk me or overspeak me?
Just like they have a right in the House.
Now, honorable member, are you insinuating that this Speaker gives the latitude to this side and not this side?
I want to be clear.
No, I want to be clear. Is that what you're saying to me?
You silence me through the Speaker, and I'm just correcting the record. That's the point I'm making.
I'm asking you to now lay that document so I can have a full understanding. So when we present these to the people, it's not just for you to say.
Agreed. No problem, Madam Speaker. I'm going to return to the House the book that has all of the figures I just read. All of it is on page 4 of the fiscal summary that clearly shows what they said was
I'm asking you to now lay that document.
I'm
be careful how you
book.
address this chair. This is the second time today that you're
returning
saying
the book.
one rule for them, another rule for you, and don't you dare challenge this chair on the way I operate. Because I'm very fair. I'm very fair.
And Madam Speaker,
I am more than fair.
They cannot have me sit down.
Don't you do that to me.
They cannot.
Don't you do that.
Speaker,
Don't you do that.
I am asserting my right to make a point.
Don't you do that to me.
Madam
I'm a very fair speaker, and I give both sides latitude to address any situation. Now you're back here on your feet again, saying the same thing to the speaker, that I'm giving one side for them and one side for me. I do not do that.
No, Madam Speaker.
Don't say that to me. And you made that the last time you say something like that to me,
Madam, let me say
because
exactly
that is not the way I operate.
Madam Speaker, you just gave me an opportunity.
I give you lots of opportunity.
Madam Speaker, you just gave me the opportunity to put on the record what the member for Exuma did not want on the record, so I'm grateful.
And I am asking you now to lay that document. I never gave you the chance. I just want to get a fair understanding so I can address the situation. Remember now, when we talk about rules that guide this place, don't go past page 3. Where the speaker is the principal operator in this place, and I will give everybody a fair chance to correct, add, alter, or correct. But don't you do that to me. Make that the last time in this place that you say something like that to me.
Madam Speaker, just so the public doesn't...
So the public can understand.
The public isn't left with that discussion. The real discussion is the
chair
Prime Minister mentioned $2 billion, and it was absolutely false.
Madam Speaker, the member for Marco City has responded. He has sought to set the record. You've asked him to lay it. Please have it laid so we may continue the debate.
Yes.
Madam Speaker.
The chair recognizes the honourable member for Fox Hill.
Okay, yes, sir. Fox East.
You got a guy in better than that.
Madam Speaker, when I was listening very carefully to the Leader of the Opposition. When I added up all those figures, it came to $2 billion to me. But anyhow, I left school a long time ago. It sounded like $2 billion to me. So read them again. You know, 1 point this, 700 and this, 500. No, that's okay. No, don't worry. I'm adding them. I remember it. It came to $2 billion. $2 billion. So it sounded like he had it right. No, it sounded like the Prime Minister had it right. $2 billion.
He said on average.
$2 billion.
On average.
Anyway, The first thing I want to do, Madam Speaker, as I join this debate this afternoon, in the few minutes that I have to speak, the Foreign Minister of Malaysia was visiting the cabinet of Perry Christie when he was then Prime Minister, and he told two stories. The first he said is that he had been away from his home for 6 weeks doing the work of the foreign minister, doing what foreign ministers do, which is to go to foreign lands and say hello to people. Yes. And he said, when he walked into the cabinet room, the Prime Minister said, "Are you sure this is the right meeting you're in?" Because they hadn't seen him in a while. And then secondly, he made the point that one day he was at the United Nations dealing with some major matter with Malaysia, and the phone rang while he was on the floor of the UN, and it was one of his constituents. And the constituent was agitated because the water pump wasn't working in his constituency. And he said to him, "But I'm at the United Nations now. I'm trying to deal with this international problem." And the constituent said, "But the water pump isn't working." So he had to put that UN stuff aside and deal with the water pump. So that's my starting point with this whole exercise, which is that if you look at a budget and the budget exercise and the rituals which we go through annually, the budget means nothing unless the people of the country can see, touch, and feel what those figures mean. And we, on this side, have dedicated ourselves to organizing a budget that people can touch, see, and feel. And that is going to be the mantra going forward for me: touch, see, and feel, a people-focused budget. And I'm also doing this in part because in my other capacity, I have my eyes firmly planted on the year 2026. And I am saying to all who would listen to me that we need your support in that year. Because 5 years is not enough time to get the job done. We need 5 more years. And so, as Lyndon Pindling would have said, steady as she goes. Steady as she goes. And every year, we're going to chip away at it and chip away at it and chip away at it. And, you know, you go through ups and downs. In 2008, there was a banking crisis, Madam Speaker. And I said then, I was in the Senate in 2008, and I was speaking and referred to the book of Genesis, where Pharaoh calls on Joseph to interpret a dream which he had. And the interpretation of the dream was that there would be 7 years of plenty, you know, and you would have 7 good years. And when you had the 7 good years, you have to save up because the 7 lean years are coming. That also has been a focus of my views in public life, that the way we've managed this budget is that this year we are on the way to, first of all, the lowest level of borrowing in a generation.
Yes, yes.
And this will allow the credit space, the latitude, to put money on the ground. And that must be job one, put money on the ground. The budget is going to pay for so many things this year. It's going to pay for the scholarships for the students that will come and apply through the Ministry of Education. It will help Jamal Strawn, who is the Member of Parliament for Nassau Village, to put that community center together. And I want to congratulate him on putting that community center together. It's a big step in helping to build community. You're going to get the water in Eleuthera fixed. That's what the budget's going to do. The road in Red Bays has been finished. That's what the budget's going to do. And you're going to be finishing and fixing the roads in Exuma. Yes. Building the airport in Cat Island. Getting the power back on and up and running in Acklands. So many things this budget will do, because it is focused on making sure that we help people. And one of the ways that we're helping people too is the member from Mount Moriah, as you know, is the chair of the Beaches and Parks. And that is a way, again, that funding can be put in the hands of ordinary men and women to do work, to clean up and make our island clean and be maintained. So there's lots that coming.
Excuse me,
Madam-
1 minute, Foxhill. Honorable member for Central, Grand Bahama. Do you respect the chair? Why are you drinking coffee or tea? No, how much I said? But I just said not to bring those cups back. You could bring water, or water bottle, or a glass of water. But if you bring the coffee cup and I allow that, then I have to give everybody the opportunity to bring the coffee cup. Bounce, we could just set a rule. And we just want that rule to be obeyed, okay? Maybe make it no fuss. All right. No. This is, you can ask for a glass. All right? Don't bring it back. That's all, Madam Speaker said. All right. Thank you very much. You may proceed, Honourable Member.
You will note, Madam Speaker, in this budget, there is for the Ministry of Foreign Affairs vote, and I will really spend most of my time discussing what the Ministry of Foreign Affairs does, the monies which have been allocated. The Minister of State will deal largely with the public service. But I would like to say before going into foreign affairs that the minister, in my view, is doing an excellent job in executing the work which is before us. There are some structural issues which I've tried to explain about what we are attempting to do in the public service. But one of the main complaints is that things take so long. So, for example, every day you would get in our phones a message which says, I've been working for the public service for 20 years. As a matter of fact, someone just stopped me at the doorstep coming in here this morning. I've been working for 20 years. I'm still on weekly. I need to be put on permanent pension. I've tried to think about why this is an issue, but I'm told that the banks, if you're not on permanent pensionable, the banks somehow don't lend you money. I don't know why that is, since jobs are secure, whether you're weekly or not. And secondly, I was wondering whether or not it's because we don't have a national pension plan, which is portable across employers, which may be contributory or non-contributory. But whatever it is, there is this complaint. And I've tried to explain, first of all, that the public service minister does not, and neither does the Minister of State, promote people in the public service. The role of promotions, transfers, discipline, that is the responsibility of an instrument in the Constitution called the Public Service Commission. The Public Service Commission makes those decisions. The way those decisions get to us is through the Ministry of the Public Service. And the starting point is the ministry itself. So, for example, the Ministry of Public Service cannot advance someone to the Public Service Commission for promotion unless that ministry or department makes a recommendation to the Ministry of the Public Service. That's how it works. And the starting point is the department or the ministry. And I explained over the Labor Day weekend in Grand Bahama that one example that I met. I left office by fair means or foul in 2017. And when I left, I was the immigration minister. There were, I would say, 300, I'm using round numbers, people who were hired as immigration officers. So the rank when I left in 2017 was about 300, I think classes of 150 each or so, were trainee immigration officers. When I came back, I was no longer immigration minister, 4.5 years later, not one single one, I'm advised, had been confirmed in their positions in the 4.5 years. Not one, not one. So when we got there in 2021, it was our responsibility to try and see what actually happened. Now, during the 4.5 years, the intelligence coming back was, for those people who were complaining about this, said, well, they're Mitchell's babies, so you go to him if you want to get confirmed. That's what they say was being said. Who knows what the truth is. But the fact is, when we got there, they had not been confirmed. And these confirmations are just now cycling through the system. They may be almost coming to an end, almost. And this is 18 months into our term. So the point I'm making is that this is not a very quick or dynamic process. And I invite the leader of the opposition, if he wishes, to come and see the state of the offices that the public service actually occupies. I did a tour myself. There are files everywhere. It's a fire hazard. There are so many files. You can't find anything. It's stacked up to the roof. It needs to be put in a new building, and thankfully that we're working on as well. But the working conditions of those who work for the public service are simply not the best, let me put it that way. And the same thing applies to the Public Service Commission that's been working part-time up to now. We have decided this year that they should really come on full-time to try and see if we can get through this huge backlog. For example, we learned that there was not a general assessment done for 8 years. 8 years. So people have been stuck in these jobs like clerk, assistant clerk, executive officers, those people below the level of first assistant secretary. And nothing was done to assess them so that they could go to the next stages in their careers. And this would mean thousands of people across the system, to the point where a request was made of the cabinet to change the policy to obviate on a one-off situation the need for an assessment test or an assessment exercise to be done requiring you to sit various courses just on a one-off basis to get through this. Otherwise, we would never get through the backlog. It is the most fascinating thing for me that this huge backlog, and we have to find some way to get on top of it because it affects morale in the public service.